You didn't have people coming to Texas who weren't flawed people back then. They came here because they got kicked out of someplace else, really, or they'd failed at something somewhere along the line.
All these components that make the Alamo personality, there's a seasoned veteran like Crockett, there's a kind of dangerous knife fighter, slave runner like Bowie, there's a young idealist and up-and-comer like Travis, along with Sam Houston. When you put these people together, they create one personality, the personality of Texas in 1836.
A lot of these men, they needed to be reborn. So they came to Texas to be reborn. I think they forgot that to be reborn, you have to die.
Travis was a cavalryman. He wanted to be out there and be fighting and be active. And he got sent here to Behar to guard this old mission that he just thought, I'm never going to see any action here. This is not why I signed up to be in the military.
Leaving, a pregnant wife and a lot of debt in Alabama and coming to Texas.
He was a lawyer. He ran his own paper when he was 19. He was very active in the military.
Fire the cannon.
He's always been portrayed as a bit of a prig, a little bit of the dandy.
You mark the coat as single-breasted with a 4-inch stand collar and the epaulets of gold bullion.
Should be quite a sight.
He's a guy who is trying very hard to be noticed.
Two-bit dandy.
And I don't think those are necessarily likable qualities.
And he's always thought a leader was putting on fancy clothes, and that's not how you're a good father. That's not how you're a good leader. And so for him, it becomes a very complex story and a very sad story that he finally figures out who he is on his last days.
I like the idea that in the course of 2 weeks, a guy who was relatively unknown finds his way alongside Crockett and Bowie. And I thought that I wanted to somehow parallel history in the casting of it. And so when I met Patrick, and I thought it was just a great opportunity to have someone that is relatively unknown make a huge splash and earn his way into the Holy Trinity of the Alamo.
If you wish to stay here with me in the Alamo, we will sell our lives dearly.
Jim Bowie has always been an enigma. He's got a big knife, and he's in bed, and he fights off the soldados at the end.
His fame had more to do with infamy, but he was a man of his time, an adventurer, a treasure hunter, a capitalist.
I think he had a great degree of charm and personality, and also I think he had a great degree of skullduggery.
He had business dealings in Louisiana, where he was from, and in Arkansas, land forging and all the slave trading.
To the extent where he'd actually been investigated by the United States Congress. When you hear the name Jim Bowie, you cannot help but think of the Bowie knife.
In the public imagination, Bowie is fighting constantly. He's in dozens of brawls, all that have something to do with this knife. In point of historical fact, we only know of Bowie being in one duel, and that was the sandbar fight. Norris Wright, an old enemy of Bowie, and Bowie started mixing it up. Norris draws a sword cane, comes up and sticks it into Bowie's breastbone, but he's flat on his back, and he reaches up and grabs Wright by the scruff of the shirt and draws him down on his butcher knife. At that point, Bowie becomes associated as a knife man.
I'm not asking anybody to think he's nice, I just want him to be fascinated by him. And I think that Jason's the exact kind of guy that can fascinate you and make you lean just a little closer to watch. I'd been told by people that, gosh, he doesn't do big Hollywood movies. He does a movie every 3 or 4 years. But I said, I want to send Jason the script anyway, and then he can say no. And Jason read the script, It wasn't like, gee, this is great. That's not Jason's way. So he didn't say yes, and then eventually he said, well, if this is what you want to do, I'm really fascinated by this guy, and I'll come on board. So I was, you know, very, very happy when Jason said that he wanted to play Jim Bowie.
It was 3 shots. Sword came through my lung and went through my hand, and then I cut his heart out.
Sam Houston was born in Virginia in 1793. While he was still a boy, his brothers tried to make him work in the family store, which did not appeal to young Sam at all. He ran away from home and lived with the local Cherokees, and thereafter had a foot both in the Indian world and the white world.
He maintains a lifelong relationship with the Cherokees, and he draws the notice of Andrew Jackson. And through Andrew Jackson, it's very easy for him to enter politics.
He was a great man. He had a really huge life, but at the same time, he had personal troubles that plagued him all his life. He was bipolar, #1. And I think the way he medicated himself is that he was an alcoholic and drank heavily at times in his life.
Smooth.
He came to Texas looking to be king, emperor, president, something. He was that kind of guy.
And when the Texas Revolution begins, is named commander of the regular forces. Problem being, there weren't any regular forces. He was made to understand that if he wanted to command a regular army, he was going to have to enlist a regular army.
I will command all or none.
When we first started talking about Sam Houston, I said, Dennis, don't be afraid to play this man just a tad mad. I knew that Dennis was the kind of actor that would embrace all that, and he did. He just tackled it.
Remember the Alamo!
Davy Crockett represented in his own time the self-made man.
David Crockett was born on the frontier in East Tennessee. Father was very poor, had trouble making a living. When his father decided to send him to school, got in a fight with one of the boys, was afraid to tell his father, and ran away. Was gone for about 2 years. He tried farming, he tried starting a tavern, but what he was really good at was hunting. And his hunting abilities did him very well in the Creek War when he was a scout in the Tennessee militia.
He was proud that he served, but he wasn't a person who enjoyed the carnage of the battlefield. He was appalled by that.
And with the popularity of his war record, of his hunting exploits, and his ability to entertain, these are things that are custom made for a frontier politician.
You figure this new republic's gonna need a president?
He was a guy who liked to hold court. He liked his friends, liked to be around people.
I said, you all can go to hell. I'm going to Texas.
He was a guy who was ambitious. He wanted to be successful, and I think he wanted to be a hero.
No one could be what Crockett's legend portrayed him. While he was alive, they had him wrestling Halley's Comet out of the sky and throwing it back into the stratosphere, killing hundreds of bears in a single season, having a pet bear that he would sit down at the dinner table and smoke and chat with. I mean, he was already a Herculean figure.
Davy Crockett was kind of like a rock star in his day. I mean, he was like a legend in his own lifetime. But all of a sudden, he was in this situation that wasn't entertainment anymore.
If it was just me, simple old David from Tennessee, I might drop over that wall some night and take my chances. But that Davy Crockett feller, they're all watching him.
That's what makes this character really interesting and somebody that Billy was able to really embrace. And I think he was just channeling Crockett from day one. It was amazing to watch.
Billy's playing Crockett in a similar way to his own personality. Billy can do all the Hollywood stuff and do the quips and be the funny guy and be the rube if people need him to be, because that's his persona, and that's very much like Crockett. At the same time, there was another darker, conflicted human being that was trying to figure out what that man underneath that supposed fur cap was. And I think that you can see Billy wrestling with those things at the same time in his own life.
Nothing in the last quarter century in terms of the Alamo, and certainly in terms of Davy Crockett, has been more controversial than how did Davy die? The heroic legend of Crockett's death at the Alamo, swinging old Betsy like a mighty club like he does in the Disney film. And this officer, Jose Enrique de la Pena, says that Crockett was captured along with a handful of other Alamo defenders and was executed on direct order of Santa Anna.
He'd be taller.
I think Davy Crockett's a hero. And I don't think there's anything less heroic about being executed than going down swinging.
John Lee's done a great job with shaping the script in a way that presents it in an historically correct way. At the same time, as an audience, people want to see characters who are larger than life.
You have all these different lives, all these different stories, these ordinary men in this extraordinary situation. That's what makes them legends.